Yeah, like he has introduced me today, we'll be taking you through the topic, the power of why. So I have the privilege to start by telling you that every great things in life often starts with the three-letter word why. Whether it's a great invention, whether in science, any discovery, it often starts with just this simple question, why? But today it's not just about historical figure. It's not about science or inventions. Today is all about every one of us here. Today is about thank you. Today is about every one of us here, because the moment we start to ask why, we start to uncover meaning. We start to discover meaning. And meaning, whether in our life, whether in relationship, or whether in our deepest aspirations, it's what gives life its deepest meaning. Because when we understand something, then it's easier for us to embark on such journey. So journey with me today through stories, through personal reflections, and through historical memories as we share with you the power of why. So, I talked about this. So why does why matters? So the first point I put was that why is it's the beginning of understanding, is the seed of purpose. The moment you start asking why, decisions start to get clearer. So I would like to say this story, which I didn't mention before in my script, but it's popped up that, it also matches with the first point, like the power of why, it's the beginning of understanding. I remembered about 2 years ago when my current wife, my wife now, which was back then my friend, we were friends, and each time we meet, I'm always eager and talking about marriage. Until a particular day, she asked me, she said, why are you always happy to talk about marriage? Why did you want to get married? And my response to her was what led to her accepting my proposal later. So I said, the reason why I desire marriage is not just about to have kids or for the sexual pleasure, but I desire to raise a family. And that response actually stuck in her, and the day I asked her to be my wife, she accepted. So, like I said, my why gives her purpose. It gives her that I know what I want. I'm not just randomly asking questions. So the next point here also is that it's a compass. It gives direction. And we need to know that when we start asking why, we may not have the answers immediately, but it points us to the right directions. And it gives us fulfillment that the directions we are actually working on, it's the right direction. So the last thing I mentioned was when we start asking why, it changes not just the world, but it changes us. Because when we start asking why, it gives life meaning. And I'm very sure no one wants to live a meaningless life. Everyone wants to live a life that is full of meaning. And that starts with asking why. So I'll start by asking, Lord, when was the last time you asked your why? Because maybe the meaning you have been searching for is not outside, but within yourself. So I will take us through short stories of how the power of why has existed before in the past. So Isaac Newton in the 17th century, it's something I believe everyone is quite familiar with, especially we are in the School of Technology. So he saw something which was not the first time happening. He saw an apple fall down, and he asked himself, why did the apple fall down? Why not all that direction? Why did it fall why does it fall vertically down? And that question, that curiosity, marked the beginning of what became a universal law of gravitation, which became the forces of physics today. So we also have Marie Curie, who is our beloved and well-known scientist in Poland. So she also asked the question about, in the 19th century, she asked that why does certain materials gives off invisible energy. And that question she asked marked the beginning of her research to discover what we know as radioactivity today. So she also was the first person to be awarded two Nobel Prize also too. She discovered polonium and radium. And then the second other point I also mentioned is Martin Luther King. These are well-known figures, which we can also easily Google abroad. He also was known for justice. We talk about a man known Moses about 3,000 years ago. He was just in the middle of nowhere going until he discovered something which sparked his curiosity. why is a bush burning and it's not consumed? So he stopped what he was doing to check, why is this bush burning and why is it not consumed? And that question he asked marked the beginning of a new journey for him. He led an entire nation into freedom. So you can also fact check that also too. And then it won't be good to mention people, of course, alone, but without putting my personal experience. So I remembered about 13 years ago, I used to be the very shy student seated at the back of this class, not daring to ask questions, always having all my ideas within myself. But as time goes on, I noticed that I had the desire to, I had this special ability to understand things and the ability to also convey, to make complex matters simple. And that marked my own why. My why was in my voice, ability to speak, ability to let people know things, ability to open your eyes to things that you might not have considered before. That's my own why. And since I discovered my why, I never stopped leaning onto it. And I'm proud to say today, I've had the opportunity of meeting over 5,000 individuals on a one-on-one section, mentoring them in every areas of life, social, faith, name it, academics as well, also too. So, whether it's justice, whether in religion, whether in academics, every great thing often starts with why. You can see this based on the examples I've mentioned. So now, it's not just about, like I mentioned at the beginning, today it's not just about historical figures, it's not just about inventions, today it's about every one of us here. So how do we also figure out our own why? How do we also figure out our why? So I highlighted about 3 or 4 things on the screen. The first thing I mentioned is that we need to pause and reflect. We live in a world that is fast approaching. We in a fast-paced world. You know, what to do today, what to do today, what to do today. We need to stop, just as how I stop now. We need to stop and reflect, digest. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is driving me? Is it just the desire for money? Is it the desire to be great? This is the beginning of discovering our why. The next thing also too is to ask yourself, what sparked your curiosity? What sparked my curiosity might be different from what sparked your curiosity. What makes you curious? Once it catches your attention, you can spend the rest of your hours looking at it. These are indications. These point our attentions to our why. And also to what are you naturally good at? These are pointers. These are compasses that point to our why. And last thing I mentioned also too, which I would like to leave us with today, is that purpose is not something outside. Purpose is within us. Most of the times, people check the wrong place for meaning. Meaning is from within. When you start asking why, you start living with purpose. We start living with intention. I believe we are not just made to exist randomly, but we are made for intentionality. And you begin to live with intentions when you start asking yourself why. Thank you very much.